I get asked one question more than anything else every single day in my Instagram, Vero, Twitter DMs, and in the YouTube comments down below. And that is, hey, what camera does a professional photographer buy and what camera should I purchase? And I love to answer this question. I will be answering this question with you guys today while I go about my way. I'm preparing to shoot the match between Austin FC and LAFC. So I'll take you with me as I check in, get all my rental gear, etc., and just prepare for tonight. But the answer to that question is they shoot flagship cameras. Flagship, flagship, flagship. And even though I'm saying flagship, it doesn't necessarily mean a brand new flagship. See, the best kept secret in the photography world is the fact that older generation or 2-generation old flagship cameras are almost always going to be not only better performing or on par, perform the same as these new entry-level cameras, but they're pretty much always going to be either identical in price or cheaper in price. And I can give you a couple of easy go-to examples of this. Number one, the Sony a7 IV. As great as it is, at that price point, I have seen Sony A9 Mark Is that go sometimes with a battery grip and extra batteries for the exact same price as that camera right now. My boy Lonnie George has an A9 right now and he's loving it. I know a couple people that actually are sports photographers that traded in their A7 IV to get an A9, and they're saying that the performance out of the A9 is still better than the A7 IV, even after everything that Sony said about an updated algorithm, better autofocus, more points in the sensor, etc. It still performs better. Now, does it have all the bells and whistles and a couple things like whenever it comes to let's say video and things? It's missing a couple of things in that, but at the same time, it is 99% of the camera that the A7 IV is in the video department, and way better camera when it comes to buffer, speed, read write, etc. in the photo department, and the autofocus is exactly on par. So you tell me what sounds like a better bet. Now let's also look at Fujifilm. Fujifilm has this exact same thing. Let's look at the X-E4 and the X-T3. Fujifilm will tell you the X-E4 is going to perform better in autofocus just because it has a newer processor. I've used them both extensively for paid work and environments. No, they're exactly the same. There is no discernible difference between the two. Even more, what you're not getting in the X-E4 is the bigger, better, brighter EVF, the viewfinder, which is a lot better on the X-T3. Also the build quality. You're also not getting that weather sealing, the dual card slot, or the 10-bit internal recording whenever it comes to F-Log, and the fact that the X-T3 has a 30-minute 4K recording time limit, and the X-E4, I believe, taps out at 15 minutes at 4K in F-Log, even though that's 8-bit. Let's also look at Fujifilm again with the XS10, the XH1. The XS10 is going to be a fantastic camera for a lot of people. It has IBIS as well as F-Log, and it has a pretty long record time limit in 1080 whenever it comes to F-Log, and it has Eterna. But when you're looking at that, comparing it to the XH1, the IBIS in the XH1 technically is a little bit better. Along with that, you're getting the weather sealing, the dual card slots, the same thing the X-T3 is getting, except for the 10-bit internal recording isn't available in that. But you're also getting a bigger, nicer, better body, an option for a battery grip, and let's get to the best part. The X-T3 and the X-E4, a used X-T3, exactly the same price as an X-E4, sometimes even cheaper. And you can get an XH1 with a battery grip. My boy Daniel actually did this. He got one for about $600, which is cheaper than a brand new XS10. That is a steal, and that is the power of buying older flagship cameras. You're getting identical or better performance all around, 100%, with a better body, better build, and more features. And that's why professionals prefer, even if they have to buy a generation older, to buy flagship cameras. You want to cheat the system even more? Then do what I did and go with flagship DSLR cameras. You will not regret this. I myself am shooting with a 1DX that I got for $600. It's 14 frames per second. It was built for sports, huge, large batteries, all the buttons and everything, great high ISO performance, very fast, 2 card slots, weather sealed, etc., etc. I have a 70-200, an EF mount, a DSLR mount, Mark III lens, their top of the line EF mount, 70-200. I got that for $750. So I hope that makes sense, and now we're gonna start going through my day. So first line of business is I have to take this box to FedEx. I'm dropping this off. Fujifilm sent me an X-T4 and a 50-140 because I'm going to be doing a side-by-side comparison, I thought, between this and the X-H2S. But I think Fujifilm keeps sending me a pre-production model because I can't get 15 frames per second out of the X-T4 without lockup. So that's been an issue. I actually missed a whole bunch of action shots whenever I was covering Fernando Tatis Jr. whenever I thought he wasn't using steroids. I'm gonna be removing or taking this back ASAP and sending this off and then just awaiting the X-H2S. As always, shout out to Carhu. I've got on the Carhoosies on right now. And there's my dog right there. He has his own house with his own rug, his own toys, living his best life. He has to have this on. I do this so he doesn't get anxious. That's him. Fan going because I live in South Texas and it's hot as donkey dick. So one thing I also want to caution people on whenever they're buying their cameras. What's going to matter and make your images look more professional than any camera you get is probably going to be your lenses and your lighting. If you're shooting in pitch black darkness with a 4.5 to 5.6 zoom lens with no artificial lighting, no matter how good your camera is, you could have a Canon EOS R3, you're going to have a really, really bad time. And so one thing that I always try to tell people is when you're looking for cameras, one of the reasons why I recommend older flagship models has to definitely do with the fact that the amount of money you save opens you up to purchasing newer lenses, better lenses, faster lenses, or what matters more in my opinion, flash, on-camera flash, off-camera flash, constant lighting, etc. That's going to matter a lot more in the long run than any camera system you get, is the lenses and the accessories like flash that make these images pop and look professional like you're looking for. It's beautiful FedEx. If any of you want the world's worst barbecue, you could just head over to Bill Miller's anytime you're here in South Texas. Oil change, baby. Okay, so I just dropped off package at FedEx and came to get my oil changed. It was due. Want to make sure that I don't, crap out somehow on the way to Austin. One other thing, as I'm on my way to go to pick up my rental, that I want to bring up when it comes to what cameras do professionals buy, you really have to start looking at what exactly are you going to do. I'm someone who doesn't look at resolution. I'm shooting an 18 megapixel camera for this assigned event. I don't need resolution because what I need is speed in the images. It doesn't matter if I have a 50 megapixel image, but I miss, a header for a goal, or I miss, an impact play in any sport, base hit, something like that in baseball. So I need speed. So a lot of times with a camera for me, I'm prioritizing frame per second, reliability, that raw buffer, that JPEG buffer, all that stuff. I'm prioritizing that over every single other thing that's going to come with the camera, including resolution, battery life, if it has a touch screen, dual card slots, etc. You don't need 15 frames per second, 11 frames per second, 10 frames per second, 7 frames per second if you're shooting portraits. A lot of times you can get the job done if you're going to do a spray and pray with 3 and 5 frames per second. Prioritize the needs that you have. Not every flagship feature is a feature that you're going to use to the most of its ability. Again, shout out to the Camera Exchange for the largest lens. So one thing I don't want you guys to think is that everything that I said only pertains to full frame cameras. That's actually not the truth. In fact, all the flagship benefits go across the board to APS-C and even Micro Four Thirds. This is an Olympus OMD EM1 camera. This is the Mark I. This is their flagship, the first one they ever made of their flagship cameras. What's amazing about this is not only does it have great IBIS, it's completely weatherproof. This camera also has amazing autofocus, and it keeps getting more and more and more continuous updates. And that's one of the things whenever you get flagship models like this, you get updates and it boosts the performance way longer than entry-level cameras. This OMD EM1 with this lens right here cost me sub $500 for everything you're getting. IBIS built in, amazing colors, some of the best colors, if not the best colors in the game. Facial detect autofocus, phase detect autofocus, all these things completely weatherproof. 11 frames per second, continuous autofocus shooting. Why does it have all these things in here? Why does it have all this? And why do there other smaller cameras not have it? Why does it have features that entry-level Fujifilm cameras and entry-level Canon cameras either don't have or barely got recently? Because this is a flagship model camera. No matter the sensor size, flagship makes a difference. Also talking about one of the other reasons why you know, getting a flagship model camera, no matter the age or anything like that, is such a fantastic thing, especially for professionals, because it's better performance with big ass lenses. Here you go. Look at that. This is what I'll be shooting on today. Thank God for monopods. Can't forget that. Unfortunate for me, and because of Austin, Texas traffic, I got in about 30 minutes later than I wanted to. Doors are already open for press. So I got to get in to find a spot and reserve it. Didn't get to show anything because I didn't want to record while driving in, but super fun. We get the shuttle and head over. This is the shuttle. It'll take us to the FC launch. Super fun time. Super fun. Where the fun begins. This is FC. This is their stadium. One DX is heavy as shit. That is all. It's the 400 f2.8. The kit really is nice, really does suck a hole. One thing too about these kind of kits and the performance with them is this camera came out in 2012, and it's one thing to be noted that it really does perform. The autofocus is amazing. A lot of people put a whole bunch of onus on tracking and things like that, but when you're a sports photographer or someone getting any kind of motion, what you really want is you really want something that has really good phase detect autofocus, really good autofocus for a single point, that can go continuous, and that's what this camera can do. I think if I was to put this up against like the R6, the difference would technically be negligible. I know I'd get more keepers from the R6, but not enough to make me say it's a huge upgrade. The reason why the R6 was only 20 megapixel, the A1 20 something. Never mind. The 1DX Mark I was a success, fantastic time. Here's what you're missing. After a win. So we're back on the bus
to go back to UT Pickle to get dropped off. The 1DX Mark I is a fantastic camera, and it's one of the things that it's a camera that was built for what it does for professionals. And so no matter what generation it is, it's going to do fantastic. 14 frames per second, the autofocus is amazing. It's keeping track of, I have it set to where it doesn't switch autofocus based on obstacles. It's fantastic, it's amazing. It's something that right now we're paying a premium for in these mirrorless bodies. And again, mirrorless is perfect, it's fine, it is the future, but there's just something to say about the fact that a flagship from a decade ago in a system that a lot of people consider obsolete is so fantastic that without a shadow of a doubt, I know that I got every single shot that I wanted to get is tack sharp and sharp. Now again, a lot of that has to do with the photographer, that's gonna have to do with you. But the moral of the story is, flagship cameras, no matter how old, are always going to outperform the entry level. If I was to try this with an EOS R7, I wouldn't have the exact same success, and I can guarantee you that. I'm not gonna be able to shoot 14 frames per second RAW plus JPEG at all and to be able to get these same results because the camera can't do it. But when you have a camera that's built to do it, it's 12 years old, it's beat up, it looks like complete and total shit, it still gets the job done. Whether it's with the 400 f2.8 Mark II, the 70-200 f2.8 Mark III for EF lenses, or it's whatever you choose to use. When you're looking for the right camera, look at a flagship, because a flagship is going to make a way larger difference in your life than anything that a marketing department from Canon, from Fujifilm, from Sony, from Nikon can sell you when it comes to these entry-level APS-C and full-frame cameras.
It is officially the day after. I recorded this once before, but I didn't have the mic plugged in and turned on. But I just finished up editing all of the photos that I need to and sending them off to publications, as well as posting them on my Instagram. Some players reached out, so I sent them some photos. It's always fun to see people that appreciate your work. But I hope you guys see throughout this whole time is one huge thing is I'm using a decade-old camera. And it's only 18 megapixels, and the images are great, the images are sharp, the camera performed well, and it's not because it's built by Canon, it's not because, oh, it's a DSLR, it's because it's a flagship body. You're not getting that with entry-level bodies. An entry-level Canon or Nikon, a Fujifilm, Sony even, an A6000 in a decade from the time it was made is not going to age and still perform with firmware updates and with just, processing power as a Sony A9. You guys, you can spend all the money you want on the new bells and whistles when the marketing tells you, oh, the R7, the X this, the Sony or the Nikon Z this, the Sony A that. It's entry level, but it has this amazing autofocus. It tracks, it does this and that and the other, but they don't age the same. And that's what you're trading off. Not only are you missing out on the weather sealing, the multiple card slots, which is a big deal to a lot of people. The biggest thing to me is the read-write speeds that you guys are missing out on, and the burst modes that you guys are missing out on, and the frame rate modes and the bit modes you guys are missing out on for video and things like that. Not only are you missing out on that, we are choosing to go with a brand new entry level instead of a new or a 1 or 2 generation old flagship. Mine is technically 3 generations old now since the mirrorless bodies have come out. Not only are you missing out on that, but you're missing out on the fact that there's longevity in these bodies. Try a DSLR, man. I missed having an OVF. I don't think I'll ever go back. I'm actually gonna look into buying the 1DX Mark III next. I love not having a lag when you go to the viewfinder, but I'll take you with me whenever I return this and give you guys a couple more thoughts before I end the video. So I just finished up and I just returned the lens to Camera Exchange, and everything went fantastic. I'm really glad I got to use that thing. That 400 2.8 is a beast. But yeah, I hope you guys, from watching this video, you can understand my reasoning behind me always recommending getting a flagship. Now, entry-level cameras are still great. An XE4 I would recommend to anyone, especially if you're just shooting street photography. To anyone, I would recommend that. But there are just a lot of people that come up to me or they'll DM me or they'll comment and say, hey, I'm looking at doing this. And it usually always revolves around a way and a means to get money or to get into something like a sports photography or a wedding photography, etc., etc. And that's just the flagship idea is just the best thing that I could think of. And it's from a sincere place. I understand that, yeah, not everyone can afford. And that's why I say, well, a couple generations back,
is very affordable. Now, I'm not trying to cripple or hurt sales of any camera manufacturer or anything like that, but I mean, let's just be real. They cripple or hurt the cameras themselves, and then they bump up the amount of marketing or the things they say about it, and they hype it up more than it is. There's no reason why you should be able to advertise 15 frames per second burst mode and then have a caveat of the battery has to be above 90% and it can't be shooting raw in order to achieve this. There's no reason why, you know, the camera company should be allowed to say, oh, this shoots up to 30 frames per second burst mode in photo, but oh, that's only in, you know, with a battery grip, with this and this feature, no continuous autofocus, single shot only, electronic shutter, not mechanical, etc. Like, there's no reason you should be allowed to do that, but camera manufacturers are. The A7 IV, 10 frames per second, really? No, it's actually 6 in real life. But they're allowed to fudge things. And so if they're going to be out here and they're going to be not 100% honest and truthful, I think that we as the photography community should be truthful. And I think that a lot of us, we jump and we run to these newer cameras because of the bells and whistles and because it's new and it has to mean it's better than the older generation. For a lot of manufacturers, that's just not 100% true. So look at flagships, go for flagship. To me, it's the best thing you can do. I'm gonna finish up some things. I'm gonna go cake taste testing and things like that. And yeah, so with that being said, hope you enjoy it. Take it light, take it easy, and have a good one.